Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
Hey guys, it's Darren here, and welcome to the Touch MBA podcast, where we're all about helping you find and get into great business schools around the world. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about career goals and how admissions committees evaluate your career goals. We want to make sure that when you apply, you have bulletproof career goals that raise no questions or alarm bells and that are convincing and congruent with your past experiences. But first, I want to thank Von Adrenaline from Austria for his 5-star iTunes review. He wrote very useful tips. Von Adrenaline, you have the coolest internet username ever. Thank you so much for that 5-star review. And I just really appreciate all the iTunes and Stitcher reviews from you guys. It's always great to hear from my listeners. It keeps me inspired and it helps more people know about the podcast. So thank you once again, Von Adrenaline. Let's get straight to this week's episode. So I've helped hundreds of applicants with their profiles at Touch MBA in terms of giving them profile assessments and helping them find best fit MBA programs. And one of the most common weaknesses I see are with career goals. Career goals are critical. They're crucial to determine a few things. One is whether you need to get an MBA at all, right? Maybe you don't need to get an MBA or a master's degree to achieve your career goals. So it's important that you know what they are. The second is that good career goals are crucial to help you determine where to apply. And as you all know, I believe that finding the right MBA programs to apply to is just as important as getting in. You don't want to waste your precious time and huge investment on a school that you're not excited about. And the best way to find a great MBA program is knowing what you want to do with your career. They're also important from the admissions perspective. Carolyn Diarte-Edwards, who is the former admissions director of INSEAD for 7 years and now has her own consulting company, Fortuna Admissions, told me when we were talking about career goals, even though she knew that some applicants might change their career paths after going through INSEAD, that she still wanted to see defined career goals. And in her words, this is what she said. She said that it's a good signal that you're someone who's driven, who's ambitious, who can visualize the future and map out a path for yourself. So having defined career goals and having a plan to get there shows that you're not a wishy-washy candidate, that you know what you want to do and you can map out a plan to get there. And this shows your maturity and your ability to plan. If you're not able to do this before you enter an MBA program, how are you going to do it during such an intense academic time of your life, during such an intense social time of your life? So having strong career goals is really important for your admissions chances as well. Okay, so now that we know why career goals are so important, what are 5 ways that admissions officers rate your career goals? Okay, the first is that your career goals are defined. And it sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised how many applicants don't have well-defined career goals. The easiest way to think about this is across the 3 dimensions of industry, function, and geography. So industry could be you're in the aerospace industry, or you're in the tech industry, or you're in the finance industry. Function would be whether you work in marketing, sales, operations, business development, the finance function of a company. And geography is self-explanatory, where you want to work. You need to come up with career goals across these 3 dimensions. And another tip I have for many applicants is don't be afraid to provide more than one option. So many applicants feel like they must have only one career goal. I think you should have one main career goal, but you should also list out a few other options that you would consider. This shows your maturity and also your ability to plan, right? That you understand that you may not get your first option, but that you have a second or third option as backup, or as potential career goals you may be more excited about after the MBA program. Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn, calls this A-B-Z planning. Your A plan is your primary plan. Your B plan is closely related to your A plan, but something a little bit different. And your Z plan is your lifeboat. What happens if you're not able to get A or B? So I would encourage you guys to come up with at least 2 post-MBA career goals, and even 3 if possible. Okay, so what's a bad example of a career goal? It's to just say consulting. And unfortunately, this is a bad example that I see a lot. And I can guarantee you that when admissions officers read someone's essay and they read that person's goal is consulting, one word, that will trigger alarm bells. They're going to be thinking this is a bit amateur hour if this person is just saying he or she wants to be in consulting. You need to be more specific. If you go to McKinsey's homepage, you can see, for example, that they have 9 functional practices and 22 industry practices, right? So functional practices would be business technology, corporate finance, marketing and sales, sustainability, etc. Industry practices would be consulting across aerospace and defense, to the high-tech industry, to financial services, etc. So don't just say consulting, say what type of consulting. And to take that even further, talk about other boutique consulting companies in those industries that are well known, or other consulting companies that are strong in, say, business technology or corporate finance. Right? This will show that you have a better understanding of the lay of the land. And so this is so important. And I spent a lot of time on that first point, but it's probably the most important one. Have defined career goals. The second way Adcoms look at your career goals is whether they can connect the dots between your prior skills and experiences and your post-MBA career goals. And the best metaphor for this is to think of a puzzle. Your post-MBA career goals are a beautiful, completed puzzle. But what they're looking for is whether you already have some puzzle pieces in place, right? Maybe your puzzle is 50% done. Maybe it's 75% of the way there. Maybe it's 25% of the way there. But the key thing is to show you've already taken steps to achieve your career goal, and that you already have skills or experiences that you can sell to future employers. What are some examples of this? Let's say that you are a consultant, but you want to get into the finance industry. How can you show that you already have some puzzle pieces in place? Well, one good example is maybe you've already taken and passed all 3 levels of the CFA exam. That's not easy to do. That is very difficult, but it shows that you've already been taking steps to make yourself marketable to the finance industry by passing the CFA. Another example, let's say you're an engineer and you want to get into marketing. What marketing skills or experiences do you already have? Did you do marketing or raise awareness for student groups or organizations or competitions you were a part of? Have you helped other extracurricular organizations market their services or spread the word about what they do? Do you do any marketing activities in your current workplace? What puzzle pieces do you already have in place? And one more thing to think about during this point is to, in general, as a rule of thumb, I would say avoid 3D career changes. So we already talked about, the 3 dimensions of a defined career goal: industry, function, and geography. I would generally encourage applicants to avoid changes across all 3 dimensions. I think a 1D change or a 2D change is very doable, especially if you give evidence you show the Adcoms the pieces of the puzzle that you already have. But I think 3D career changes, especially at schools, I'd say outside the top 10, are really difficult to make. Okay, so I would avoid those 3D career changes if possible. The third way admissions officers rate your career goals is whether they're meaningful to you, whether your career goals reflect a sense of purpose, passion, meaning, and or significance. My tennis coach had a quote. It was his favorite quote, and he'd always tell me it when I wasn't working hard, or practicing hard. He'd say, "What you're doing speaks so loud that I can hardly hear what you're saying." And what this quote really means is action is the most important thing, not words, but action. Right? If something is important to you, you're going to take action to do it, to achieve it. There need to be some footprints that you've taken to get to your career goal. And the more meaningful it is to you, the more action you will have already taken. Let me give an example of a career goal that reflects a sense of purpose or passion or meaning. I had one applicant come to Touch MBA. He's an Australian. And he wants to work in the water or energy management industry. And that sounds like an okay career goal. But once he gave me more context about his background, then it became a very powerful career goal. This applicant was born in Sri Lanka during the Civil War. His father and family stayed in the country even though they had the chance to leave during this conflict. And unfortunately, his father passed away, but his family and himself were able to escape by boat during the Civil War. And when he got to Australia, he was amazed at how everyone had easy access to water. In Sri Lanka, he never had easy access to water. And so he is an engineer. He's been working in the water industry. And in one of his projects was in Brazil to prepare for the World Cup. And he saw in Brazil how an executive from Procter & Gamble was connecting engineers from that company to underprivileged communities to help spread their knowledge to these young people from these underprivileged communities. And that's what he wants to do. And he wants to do that in the energy industry. Okay, this is kind of a long-winded story. I probably could have told that better, but you get the point. The point is that his career goal is so personally meaningful to him because of his background and because of what he's already done. You can see that he's already taken steps towards this career goal. So that's what I'd call a meaningful, a significant career goal. A fourth way that Adcoms evaluate your career goals is whether you have convincing motivations for pursuing an MBA. And this might be the strangest, the most complicated criteria, because your motivations have to be at the right energy level. They have to be the right wavelength or frequency, however you want to say it. First, you need to show that you're not just a paper chaser, right? That you really care about the education, that you really will be an engaged member of the community that you'll be joining, okay? That's the first thing. The education has to matter to you. Yes, MBAs are for launching your career, for changing careers, for increasing your income potential. There's no doubt about that. But you have to still be interested in the learning, okay? You have to show them that you have convincing motivations to learn. Now that that's out of the way, the second thing is, I talked about the right energy. You need to show that an MBA is a launch pad for you, but not a magic wand. So you know that an MBA can accelerate your career goals and that you have a plan to do so. But you know that an MBA won't solve all your problems, won't instantly guarantee you your dream job. Show the Adcoms that an MBA will be a launch pad for you and that you're willing to work hard, but that you'll take advantage of all the opportunities available to achieve your career goals. Don't portray the MBA as a magic wand. Don't say and don't convey expectations that you'll be able to get this pie-in-the-sky career just because you have an MBA. Finally, the last criteria is that you have a rock-solid case for pursuing an MBA from the schools you are applying to. And I want you to think of this as every school is like a tribe. And if you want to join the tribe and be a part of the tribe, you better be excited about it. Speak the same language, dress the same way, have a similar attitude or approach, right? This is what you need to show the Adcoms. You need to really understand the school's unique selling proposition. You need to understand the school's culture. You need to have researched how a B school's curriculum, its professors, its clubs, its centers of research, its competitions can help you achieve your career goal. You need to show that you've reached out to students and alumni who perhaps had a similar background as you and made a similar career transition that you wanted to make. In other words, by doing all this research, you're really able to speak the language of your target MBA program and of your classmates. You're already part of the tribe by doing so much research. That's what you need to show. And an example of this is James Clark, who is a student from LBS and who was on my podcast last year. And he was talking about how if you're applying to LBS and you're describing the group of students you'll be taking classes with as a cohort, that's going to raise some eyebrows, because at LBS they call this streams. At MIT they call this oceans. And at other business schools they may call this sections or cohorts. If you talk about an LBS stream and you call it a cohort, then admissions officers from the school and students and alumni from the school might be thinking, that's interesting. They'll understand where you're getting at, but they might think maybe you're not so interested in LBS. You need to make this rock solid case for why you want to pursue an MBA at the school you're applying to. And, this comes down to a really functional reason, and that is that schools are worried about yield. Yield is how many applicants who are admitted end up choosing to go to that MBA program. If you're not Harvard, if you're not Stanford, you're concerned about yield as an admissions director. So the more excited applicants are to apply to your school and the more work that they've done researching your school, the more likely they are to be excited to, attend if admitted. So just to sum up 5 ways to rate your career goals. There are 1, are your career goals defined? 2, can admissions committees connect the dots between your prior skills and experiences and your post-MBA career goals? 3, do your career goals reflect a sense of purpose, reflect a sense of passion, meaning, or significance to you? Number 4, do you have convincing motivations for pursuing an MBA? Number 5, do you have a rock solid case for pursuing an MBA from the school you are applying to? You can almost imagine these 5 criteria, as a checklist. And if you can check each one of these criteria off, the stronger your career goal score will be. If you get all 5, you'll have a +5 career goal score, and that's going to be a really awesome, bulletproof, convincing career goal. So I hope this episode helps you guys with your career goals, helps you come up with really strong and well-researched and convincing career goals, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your #1 school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.